Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another image critique. I'm Toby.
And I'm Christina. And we're back from Italy.
We are back from Italy, and we are ready to critique. Now, the next series of critiques, or next
videos coming up, the critique videos.
Thank you, are going to be slightly differently because we said if you get your images into the October 28th submission folder, and I posted a couple of reminders about that, we will guarantee their critiquing as long as they meet certain criteria. Now, if you are curious about which ones are going to be included over the next couple of weeks, because you're looking at just a couple right here, right now, that we're going to do today, watch at the end of this video after we finish up. I will show you the few that got cut out because either they're duplicates or there was a couple really nice shots that were not large enough. I said specifically 1920 minimum size, and people put in very little puny ones, and we have enough that we're just going to move through this.
And we actually didn't record this as part of that segment, but there was one picture we just cut out recently because we discovered that it was too small, and we were really bummed because it's a really strong photo, but we had to cut it out because it didn't meet the requirements.
Yep. Now, I know some people have asked for these to be a little bit longer as they have been in the past, and there are other people who, on those little longer ones, asked for them to be a little bit shorter and a little bit more digestible.
You know, I think that this length of time that we've been putting out, I feel like feels fair. And, if people find them too long, then they can just skip. And, if they find them too short, I think that they can just wait till the following week's critique and just... but, yeah, we're still, in short, playing with the timing of and the length of these videos. But, keep sending your feedback. Because we definitely do take it into account, but we also have to, figure out what works best in terms of timing, these videos along with all the other content that Toby puts out throughout the week. So, with that said,
let's jump right into our first image. Oh, and we should tell people that what do we have here? No, that's not right, 58. I think it's about 40 images total that we're going to be critiquing over the next couple of weeks, probably doing somewhere between 4 to 6 per episode. So, here we are starting with Richard's. That looks like a cormorant of some sort. Oh yeah, it even says in his file name, Cormorant on Pond.
So this photo is fairly simple. It's pretty simple. It's has, the one subject that's clearly, it's in focus and it's on the lower right and on the lower right third of the frame. So it kind of leads, the ripples and the reflection and all of that sort of leads our eye to it. And
he's moving into the frame.
That's right. So compositionally, it's a very strong image. I don't know if it speaks to me, on the impact of this image. And we had an interesting conversation in Italy with one of the instructors who had been a judge for photography competitions, along with, I believe, David and Allie McKay. And one of the things that he mentioned that they judge pictures based on is impact. So you can have a really technically perfect image, and you can have a great image, but a huge part, rather, impact has a huge weight on the final decision that the judges take. So I'm going to start using that as one of my criteria for judging pictures, because I think for me that's also one of the strongest ones. And impact is very subjective, which we should say that.
Sure.
Something that appeals to me may not appeal to you necessarily, but that's just...
Sure. Well, people are submitting them for us to critique, and I think we do, not always agree on the impactfulness of images.
So as far as impact goes, this image does not have a lot of impact for me.
Okay.
And that's all I have to say about it.
Okay. I'd like a little bit more room behind the trail over here on the right. I think we could lose a little room. And I agree, it's a nice image, but I think what really weakens it is the direction that the cormorant is headed, kind of out and away, and we can't make eye contact with the creature. Anytime that there are living organisms with eyes in your shot. It's really nice to be able to see those. And the direction that he is headed off, or she, removes that from us, and we can't do that.
The other thing that I noticed is that there are a lot of little bugs on the water, and those really take my eye away from the cormorant. They're very distracting to me. So, I would polish up this image a little bit by going into Photoshop and sort of cloning out those things.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't know if it's worth it. I'm saying I don't know if you think it would make it that much stronger to go ahead and take the time in this image to remove those.
Well, that would be an improvement done to this image.
Okay.
But yeah, as far as like whether or not you should actually go through the trouble of doing that, that's sort of your call.
Yeah.
But
I do like the reflection and the colors we have in the center
as
image, and the ripples work nicely as well. So,
great.
thank you, Richard. 1/1000th of a second at f8. What lens? I don't know what lens.
400 millimeters, though.
How do you know that?
Because it says it right
400
there.
Oh, so I wonder if it was a 400 prime. Nice. All right, moving on.
So the first thing that stands out to me about this image are the colors. They're so vibrant and rich, and not in a way that looks super saturated, like purposely saturated. It looks kind of like probably the way that it did in real life. It's very realistic. One of the things that I would change about this image is the horizon. It looks very tilted to me, and I think that it takes away from the image. I know that with curved horizons like this, it's kind of difficult to really get it right, but to me, it just feels too sloped, and it does not feel like it's on purpose. So a little bit of a
You're talking about the left being lower than the right. Is that correct?
Right, yes. So a little bit of a manual correction here. Let's go in, since we did this last week, and
Develop.
And manual lens correction.
Now, let me ask you why you're doing this versus doing the crop and rotating.
Because the crop would actually make these lower in the frame. If you just like cropped it this way, these would become lower, and so it would create kind of a tricky.
Gotcha.
It would create another problem. It would be problematic if.
Well, we're still going to end up losing that to some degree.
Right.
Yep.
Yes, but it won't look slanted. Is what I'm saying. It won't look tilted. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm just kind of playing with. I'm really taking into consideration the grid that's displayed on my screen, and I'm just kind of playing around and seeing what sort of makes it look most or least slanted. So what I'm going to do is constraint crop, and that's a little bit closer. I mean, I think that again this is a sloped landscape, so it's a little bit tricky, but we can see here.
But because we have that water's never going to be sloped when it's still. We can use where the water meets the land and the grid to guide our eye and create a more straight horizon.
Yeah, so that feels a little bit more straight to me. It's still a little tilted, so I think if I tweaked it a little bit more, maybe took it into Photoshop and played with it a little bit more, I think I would get it right. But I think horizons are a big deal. I know I talk about it a lot, but an image can look so much more polished if the horizon is straight. The second thing that I would change about this image is I would have given a little bit more separation between the leaves and the top of that castle.
That's my main comment as well.
That's really it. And then you'd have a really strong image. You have a strong image as it is. But you just tweak those two things, and then you'll be golden. I know maybe you can't go back to this place to redo it, and I know I'm talking a lot. I'll let you talk in a second, Toby. But you could just clone these out, and that would give you some more room, some more space. So you can still just take this one image and fix it.
That'd be a little tricky, but possible. Yes.
Yep.
I agree. I think if you can return here, also I agree the colors, it looks like 7:30 at night was the capture time. So in the middle of summer, July, yes, summertime, is giving you this really nice look where the light has a lot of directional element to it we've talked about before and kind of wraps around objects
It's very
as opposed
soft.
to midday where everything gets flattened and has a very flat look.
Right.
We have a very 3D look here with the shadows and the colors of the light. Really, really nice. Reflection, beautiful. Really bothers me that we have touching here. If you could return to the spot, I think it would be lovely to just move and shift your perspective just enough to frame the castle in a spot that is a little bit more gappy. But otherwise, nice shot. We could also crop in on the right. This little bit of dark.
Yeah, it's not adding too much to the image.
It doesn't add anything to it, but it's also not terrible. This would be a neat place to return at night. I wonder what kind of lighting we have on the castle and have a really long exposure that would completely smooth the water out. But Bojan is how I'm going to pronounce your name. I'm sorry if I'm doing that wrong. Nice shot overall. Thank you.
So this picture
you're gonna start
actually
again?
looks. You're welcome to start if you'd like.
Well, I was it's going to echo what you said. It's in some ways similar to my very favorite image that I've made in Italy of the woman looking out the window.
Well, it looks like it was taken in Italy, in Camoli.
Well, it has similar colors, but we should take our very narrow perspective
Yes,
of international
indeed.
travel and say that there are other places that look similar, especially since Steve named this French guy.
Right.
So I'm going to say that it's probably in France.
In France.
Somewhere.
Yes.
It's likely. Unless wherever Steve lives, he knows this neighbor of his is French.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
So do you want to give your thoughts on this image, or do you want me to go ahead and...
I will start with my thoughts on this image. The first thing that I notice is this repeating stripe pattern, which I really like. Even though this is completely abstract over here, and this looks like it's so bright that we've lost detail in it, I think it's just sunlight on the side of the building. It's a little trippy as to tell what direction we're looking there. But we have a stripe here that he's in, another stripe, and then the final stripe here. I like that a lot. This repeating pattern broken up by him and the dark space in the window that he's open works really nicely for me, even though this one is a little abstract. That's all great. I love this moment. I can't quite tell what he's doing there, but it's this neat moment captured, and that's a lot of the reasons why I really am happy with the picture I captured. Similar is just this moment that I was lucky enough to capture. That said, he's a little soft looking in here. And it's hard. I don't know if you did some post-processing or what, but our focus, very sharp right in this area, and maybe he is completely in focus too. We don't have a lot of ability to get closer. Or maybe that's just because of the window I have turned on.
I don't think so. I think you just can't really get close.
Sorry. So that's a little strange to me and a little distracting. And the one other thing is triangles. We've talked about this before. Triangles really grab the eye, and we've got one sitting right here in this bottom right-hand corner, grabbing my attention. But generally, this works really well for me, and overall, I like this image.
So I'm going to disagree with you on... So I like the abstract element to this image. So the panels on the left and the right, they seem very abstract to me. It's a little... I'm a little bit confused by this image because of the filter that has been applied. That I'm gonna guess it's a tilt shift filter of some kind because the top and the bottom corners are sort of soft, whereas everything else is kind of sharp. Because of that, I'm gonna venture out and say, that's what happened. It looks a little bit flat to me. And it's confusing. Like, I'm not sure which wall is, pointed where, angled where. Like, what is he sandwiched between that window and that wall, or is there a wall next to him? Like, are we looking through an alley? I'm not certain what's going on. My brain is really confused. That being said, once again, I do like the colors a lot. I think that's the strongest element in this image. So maybe, if it's something that you can go back to and undo the tilt shift filter, I wouldn't mind seeing that photo without it. I think it may restore the depth and the, I guess,
Give us a little bit more of a true perspective.
yeah, to what this looked like. But otherwise, other than that, the action I think is really interesting. He's writing something. This is clearly a moment. I guess you would call it mundane, but at the same time, like a day in the life of this man. So which I think is really interesting. I will agree with Toby on the triangle on the bottom right corner, but mostly I would just change the tilt shift filter. I don't think it helps this photo a lot.
Yep. Great. Thank you, Steve. Now we got this image from Dalibor. Dalibor, you've submitted others that have been excellent before, and this continues that trend. The composition of this image is near perfect, 99% perfect in my mind. Christina and I have discussed this a little bit prior as some of these images we've looked at, and we have a slight disagreement, but here's what I love. The spacing between the tree and the sky is perfect. I think a lot of people would be inclined to move the horizon line up a little bit and have a little bit less space up there, but this works really nicely. This gradient of the sunset or sunrise, I'm not sure. I'm going to say sunset based on the time it was taken. Just works so nicely, and the exposure of the moon up there is perfect. I don't expect this is a composite, but it's certainly a possibility because the silhouette exposure over here, really nice. The moon exposure, really, really nice. And it just looks great. Now, the one thing that I feel a little nitpicky about is I'm not crazy about where the tree gets cut off. Right, we left with this V that isn't quite complete down here. And this is a pretty minor nitpick, and it's really my only one when I look at this image. I'd like to see either more of that included, and now I know I'm going against what I just said about that would include moving the horizon line up a little bit and chopping a little bit of the top, coming closer to the top of the tree. But maybe backing up a little bit could also do that, or shooting slightly wider. Because I just would like that feeling of completeness of the tree coming down to one trunk since it's so close. Another option is to shoot just a little bit higher, and then we could imagine that it's 2 trees or something like that, or 3 since we have this other kind of weird branch sitting right there too. But without that, still really nice, really strong image.
Yeah, and I'm going to disagree about the cropping at the bottom or, more of the trunk at the bottom. I don't think that's a problem at all. For me, that's, I agree with you about the composition. I think the composition is great. Impact-wise, this image is also very strong. I mean, you have very strong colors juxtaposed in one image, and then the gradient, mildly colorful background of the sunset is just really complements the black and the white really well. I don't have a problem with the cropping at the bottom, but I am noticing a strange halo around some of the branches and the leaves of the tree, which I think, I'm going to guess that happened during some dodging, burning, sort of either of the background or of the tree itself. And, it's really hard, really challenging to get. So you have that light sort of halo, but then you also have kind of muddy areas right out here and right out here and right out and in here. So it can be difficult to sort of get the background, by itself to a certain tonality, and then and then also to get these parts to be the same tonality. So then you have to go in with a brush and sort of fix it, and it can be really hard to match. But to me, it's very noticeable, and that is the only thing that I would just go and maybe fine tune and tweak a little bit. and again, like Toby, I'm being very nitpicky, but to me that will make a huge difference. Otherwise, again, it's compositionally it's great. Everything else about it is really awesome. So,
Thank you, Dalibor. Our last image for this week's critique is from Sergey. And
I love this image. This is really cool. It looks almost like out of a motion picture. It's like a motion picture grab. I love the crop. The crop's really cool. I think that's what adds to the effect of it looking like it was out of a motion picture. But the light's also really awesome.
Yes.
And it looks like you may have added some flare over on the right. And it just works really well balanced out against the dark left building. And the grading is really, really great. I mean, can you say that about a picture? Can you grade a photo?
Sure.
Or the color
treatment?
The color treatment.
Yeah. We've certainly picked on treatments when they haven't been good before, so I think we can mention when they add impact. I agree. The light in this image, again, going back to the reflection of the castle that was our second image, very similar here in that the light is very directional, really gives a sense of 3D to this scene. And of course the scene is, but we're always looking at it on a flat screen, and the light really helps to see that. Love the repeating elements here of kind of the architectural bits, and then in the background as well. You mentioned the crop. It feels crooked to me in the way that these buildings are kind of leaning away from us. It's also a wide screen, isn't it? What do we have here? Yeah, 4,000 by 1,900. So we have kind of a 16 by 9, which I know you are partial to. Let's say if we say 16 by 9. Oh, so it's even wider
than that. 21 by...
Yeah, the other one that you mentioned. What was it?
I don't remember. Like 21 by 9? Make it big.
Yep. 21 by 9. So I like all of that. And the fact that it's crooked or cropped or taken in such a way that it's at an angle, I think works fine.
And I think, I don't find it to be crooked. No. What are you doing?
Making it more crooked. Yeah, there's no real...
Yeah, so that would be, like, I think, I hear what you're saying, and I don't think right now you're not cropping in the right direction in order to straighten it.
Right.
Because to me, this is a...
I'm basing it off this, so then now I'm deciding to base it off that building in the bottom left corner there.
Oh, see, so I would base it off of this, which is the strongest main line in the photo, and I would go this way and try to straighten it. So then that would make it more straight. But actually, I don't think that would make that huge a difference, and it doesn't look too much like it's, to me, it doesn't look like it's angled that much. And the reason is that you have this building, so you've got these lines converging into here, but then you've got this line sort of balancing it out, and these lines are converging in the opposite direction. So you've got these going this way, and then you've got these going this way, which balances it out nicely. And yeah, I mean, to me, this is sort of, the anchor of the photo. This is the main focal point of the photo, but my eye bounces around to everything, the detail in the clouds, this building back here, these lines over here, and it all keeps coming back and walks me through the image really nicely. So I think it's a very, very strong image.
It is. What's your opinion on this light here sticking out?
I think it fills up the space between those two buildings nicely. I don't have a problem with it at all. Okay. In fact, if you had to cut this out, then you'd also have to Photoshop this reflection out, which would be quite cumbersome. And and then you have this other one here. I just think it's part of the scene, and to me, it's not distracting. It just adds to it.
Great. I almost feel like this is a movie set. Maybe that's what you're kind of going on at when you were talking about a grab from a movie.
Yeah.
Still. Yes, very neat. I'd like to know a little bit more about this. Thank you So that's our last image for this critique. We'll be working through more of them. As I said, stay tuned right after I finish blabbing here in a second. I'll let you watch us, which ones we had to crop out. I'm so sorry if yours was one of those, but you didn't follow the directions, and we want to make sure that we are taking our time to critique the ones that fill the screen and we can really talk about. So, there was one other thing I wanted to say. I can't remember what it was. Oh, I want to know, since Christina mentioned impact and talking about, images from that standpoint a little bit more, which one of these images had the most impact for you? And is that the same as your favorite? Which one was your favorite image? I always love to hear your opinions, and I might not always respond, but I do read those comments.
So which image had most impact for you? And which one was your favorite?
You're going to put me on the spot like that?
Do you want me to go first?
Yes, I want you to go first.
So this image was, for me, it had the most impact. And I think it was my favorite too. It's just a really strong image.
It is a really strong image. The detail and the lighting in it is very, very nice. I have to say that, I hadn't noticed, honestly, the muddy bits and the colors until you pointed them out, and now I can't stop looking at them. If that wasn't here, though, this image would be my favorite, because I think this is just a really neat, really cool gradient up to the moon.
And it can still be your favorite. I mean, that's something that I notice because I'm very sensitive to it.
That's why I have you join me for these critiques, because of your eye.
But it's still a really strong image.
Yes.
So, thank you all.
Oh, did I say?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sure, I'm just going to pretend. But I switched back to this one because this place and this time I love, and I want to visit here more than I want to visit here. So that's what I'm going to say is my favorite right now.
Cool. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
You were going to wrap us up?
Yep. Thank you, everybody. And make sure to come back next week to see what we say about the next 5 images.
The next 5 images. Yeah, and take a moment and hit the thumbs up button on this so folks know it is worth watching. And if you were watching this and you haven't hit the subscribe button, take a moment to do that as well. Those numbers really mean a lot to us and help us in our business.
And which means that we can provide more content for you in terms of...
That's right. Christina's raising her rates that I have to pay her. Beyond donuts and coffee.
We're rambling on too much.
I don't even pay that. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
All right, so we're going to take a few moments, and here we are with the whole group that was submitted for the October 28th period that I said we are going to work our way through doing, 4 or 5 each episode. Just want to show you the ones that are getting cut out for a couple of different reasons. Just watch us work through some that have to be removed because they didn't follow the rules, like this one right here, which is kind of a neat picture. Its longest dimension, though, is 1024. This is as big as we can make it. So that is getting the axe. I said they had to be at least 1920 on a side. All right, now we're also just looking for another one too small. Please, people, read the rules so that they are the proper size.
Hey, that kind of looks like Kamoli.
It did a little bit. We'll go back and we'll get all of these at some point. We're also looking to make sure there's good metadata over there. And in this case, here you've got some duplicates, so we're just going to take these out. And you see that some have star ratings already. That is from coming over from their own metadata. We will be squashing out those stars at some point in the future. Kitty cat, 2 kitty cats. Which ones has the name? Okay. And actually, I think we're zoomed in now, so let's zoom it back out. Okay, and that one. Too small, Cheryl.
that?
This seems to be metadata associated with, I think this might, from Roy. Okay, this is actually something else that he was submitting. So we're just going to leave those in. Well, actually, we can take them out from the Lightroom, but I have them saved.
And we're going to take that
And
one out.
we're going to take this one out too. Too small and no name.
And stretched out. That
leaves us with 42 images. And now we're going to 0 all of them. Now we're going to pick a couple of them, and those are the ones you saw us review today, and now we'll be working through these over the next couple of weeks.
So are we going to just pick 5 of them and then do